And I think, do you have to approve that? Does it does it ask you
Um,
permission? Looks like it's recording. So yeah, we're recording. All right, cool. All right, well, cheers.
cheers. Ooh, what are you drinking?
So funny story. It's so perfect that you're doing it at the wine shack, obviously. Which is why I put this on display. This is the one you had Terry sign
Oh
for me
yeah, for
for
your
my
birthday.
birthday. Yes. And also I love that you're doing it at the wine shack, his label Puffin Wines. I wish I would have had one of these other than the one I bought. So, because when you told me you were going to do it at the wine shack, I was like, crap, I only have beer. So I went, there's a Fred Meyer right across from my apartment, and I picked up just a, I'm not going to name it, but it was a major, just corporate label wine that should be a safe bet, just a Chardonnay. It's horrible. So
Oh.
I'm having this, but I wanted to share a glass of wine with you. I'm not probably not going to finish it, but yes, because wine, especially with the event that we do every year, wine has a kind of an important theme through it, I guess.
Mhm.
Because I know Puffin donates a lot of wine for that event every year.
They do every year for the reception. Stephen and Marianne um donate their puff and wine for so it's really great.
Well, and I don't they serve it at the Saturday night dinner also, or not? I thought they
No.
did, but maybe not. But
Mm-mm.
it's the Friday
No.
night reception, and then
Friday night reception.
they've been awesome enough to host like one of the authors or something
Hmm.
Friday night after the reception.
Right. And you can get
Yeah,
the wine there. In fact, Puffin Wine, so Puffin is Steven's brand or the Wine Shack's brand, and then different winemakers make the wine for him.
right.
So, um, so it's excellent wine. I mean, it's the winemakers know what they're doing, and he's won all kinds of awards. So we're really lucky to be able to serve it to our guests because it's not available everywhere. So,
Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said I really
yeah.
wish I'd had a bottle of his Chardonnay instead of the crappy one that I picked up. But I just there, I was like, this is perfect. Because Steven has always been so gracious. How many years I've been doing this. So let's do a proper intro. And because the
Yeah.
people are like, who are you talking to? And why do they keep referring to Puff and Wine and the Wine Shack? So, Tracy, I met you because of the authors, readers event, that was kind of, and we can go into the details on the story, but it happens every April in Cannon Beach, Oregon. Um, my favorite author of all time, Terry Brooks, was one of the reasons it started, and I want to get into the story of how that happened. But also, this is about you. So anyway, we do that every April, and I trying to think this year how many years I've been doing it. It's hard to count because we took 3 years off.
I know.
But
I was trying to remember as well because I remember did your mom come before you came or did you come with her the first time she went?
no, the first year I did it, I was by myself, I believe.
Okay.
The next year she came and started coming again. So I think the
Brought your
second
mom.
year I did it, me and her came together. We
Yeah.
um got a room at the not the Stephanie Inn, but the little blue L-shaped place. Looks like a motel right down from the surf
Yeah.
sand. I forgot the name of that place. It's really cute. Anyway,
Yeah.
and then she went for at least 4 or 5 of the years.
Hmm.
Yeah, so great stories. And again, another reason this is very serendipitous, is that the word I'm looking for, that you're at the wine shack, is we see each other once a year, and I feel like I've kind of gotten to know you. We're very comfortable with each other, but really I don't know anything about you because it's a whirlwind of a weekend every year, and we're both stressed out. We want everything to be perfect, and even though it
Yeah.
should be an enjoyable weekend in Cannon Beach, especially, I mean, you live there, but for me, and I do love it every year, but it's like I don't know how to relax because I want everything to be perfect. The best part is when the mic works, the volume's right, and the authors just start talking. Then I can sit down and just enjoy or enjoy their presentation and relax for that 45 minutes or an hour. Then I stress out in between, get ready for the next author. Once they start, then I can relax and enjoy it. And of course, the Saturday night dinner is always amazing because once everything's up and running and everybody and the keynote speaker starts speaking, I can sit down, have a glass of wine or a beer, and just enjoy the experience.
Yeah.
And I, oh, by the way, I you're being very gracious with your time, so we don't have to go
Oh,
super long. You tell me, because if
I'm
you don't
fine.
tell me,
I blocked it out.
okay,
So
because if you don't tell me when to stop, we'll be here until 9 p.m. So I'm kidding. My longest podcast was 2.5 hours, but most of them run about an hour to an hour and a half. But yeah, it's
okay.
just a conversation. Um,
Right. Did
so
you ever get to I know we one time we met actually down at the wine shack. I was coming in to
that's
actually
where I was going to bring. Oh, I was going to bring
okay.
this up. Yes,
Okay.
because sorry, I got off on a tangent, but
No, no.
so I've done it at least 8 years, maybe nine. I lose count of how many. So we're obviously just kind of like-minded, very comfortable with each other, and the more every year I do it, I learn something else I can do to help you. I understand how things need to work. So we have this great weekend together, and then we don't see each other for a year. But last year was amazing because it was the break after the afternoon author. We have like a 2.5 hour break before the dinner, and we both ended up at the wine shack. And you had just gotten a ticket on the way down. Do you remember
Well,
this?
almost.
Oh, he let you off with a warning.
Well, let's see. I thought I got pulled. No, I got pulled over after I left the wine shack, I thought.
No, it was on the way down because you were
Okay.
just irritated when you got there, and it was
Yeah.
because it was a crosswalk thing,
Crosswalk.
and you waited until they were out of your lane, but you didn't wait until they were to the other side of the road, which is
Yeah.
whatever
Do y'all
ridiculous.
know that? Because I now know. And now I watch other people, and nine times out of 10, they do wait, but there's always the person who doesn't. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, you're breaking the rules.
I I knew that was the law. I mean, this is something you might not know about me, but I was a cop for 8 years
What?
in a
No, I
past
did not know
life.
that.
Yeah, when I was younger. So
Okay.
I knew the law, but especially if traffic is backed up and the person is safely in the other lane, you're nowhere near them. It just is ridiculous. So that's kind of what we would call a gray area. The
Yeah.
spirit of the law versus the intent of the law. You waited. There was no danger, so but
Yeah.
whatever. So anyway, let's not. But yeah, we you came down and we were both stressed and in a good way because I think we both get a lot of joy from this event. But I got there before you, and then we had a moment to sit down, and this was like the first real conversation we had because we talked about we had both lost our moms recently, and I got to hear how that happened for you, and I shared a little bit about. So that was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. After 6 or 7 years, I'm actually having a conversation with Tracy, not just about what time do you want me there. So,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing, and then I also, uh, I'm closing in on 100 episodes. I think I'm at 98
Yeah,
now.
that's so cool. I just heard you in your last podcast say that.
Yeah,
Need to
yeah.
figure out
So.
exactly how many.
Oh, I mean, I know where I'm at. I know what number
Okay.
I'm at.
Okay.
I'm literally, I think the last one was 98 because I number every one on YouTube.
Hmm.
So
Am I 99?
you could be 100 if you want.
Oh,
I haven't because like my coworkers are so funny. They've been like, well, you have to do something special for 100, and I'm like, well, I was just gonna let it happen naturally. But like, if you want to be 100, I'll keep you in the can until I record another one, and you can be 100.
okay. I would love to be 99 or 100. I'll
Okay,
pick the two.
and
So
I knew
whatever
you would
works for
say that.
you.
But and I think um oh, and the other thing I was going to say was yeah, there are so many, whether it's coworkers, friends, family members, since I've been doing this, that something just hits, and it was because I just saw you that I'm like, why the hell haven't I asked that person to be on the podcast? So it wasn't because I never wanted you. Obviously I was like, but it just, we get
I
busy
never
with
took, yeah, don't you
okay.
worry. Yeah,
We
we
get
know.
busy with life and you forget,
Yep.
and then something clicks, and I'm like, oh my God, you should be on the podcast, which is so funny. I'm guessing, and we're going to get into your story. I'm guessing you have a fair amount of experience with Zoom or doing virtual meetings and stuff like that.
A little bit.
Oh, okay. So I'm
Um,
going to find out, but I
yeah.
thought maybe you did this a lot.
No, only during COVID did we start doing a few meetings. So I don't know if you know my other job,
No,
which
so all I
okay.
know is, and that's what I want to ask. So let's get
Yeah.
into it. Is the do you have an event planning business? Is that why you got into doing Get Lit? But you also have like another job.
Right. So I'll try to make it brief.
No, no,
So,
don't
okay.
make it
Okay.
brief. Just
Okay.
talk.
So, I used to live in Seattle and I worked for a destination management company and they used to do meeting planning. And so when I worked for them, I was involved with a couple organizations. One was an optometry group and one was a dental organization. So I did the optometry group in Vegas every year for almost 20 years. Literally, we ended on the 19th year. But the dental organization kept going. And so so what I did was I started my own business, my own event management company business, and continued to do that with them. And like I said, the optometry group is no longer, but the dental group is still going pretty strong. So I've been working with them. I was actually hired when I worked for the company in Seattle as the dental group's meeting planner, and they had an executive director. But in 2010, she decided to retire. And so she just said the natural fit was for me to move into that position. So since 2010, I have been basically the executive director of a dental organization.
So when you say dental group, dental organization, is this a conglomeration of a lot of different independent um, dentist businesses, companies?
Yeah, so it is our official name is called the International College of Craniomandibular Orthopedics.
Okay.
We just call it ICMO, a lot of letters, it's easier to say. And they mostly deal with the jaw and they do um kind of more holistic. So they do tensing and they use appliances instead of just going straight to surgery for people who have TMD, TMJ, migraine headaches, I mean, I've learned so much. Like small, when I was younger, I had braces, and back in those days, in the orthodontic days, they would just pull teeth to make room,
Yep.
which really isn't the best way because then you kind of get out of alignment. So the other thing that our dentists do is not just focus here, but just really on the whole alignment of your body. And so so basically I had a tooth pulled, and so I don't have the right amount of teeth. Anyway, I digress. That's not about my
Yes,
whatever.
it is
But
about you. That's the
yeah.
point of the podcast.
So anyway, these dentists, so that's what they do. They fix those issues that might have been caused by surgeries or things being out of alignment. And basically it's all about your bite and occlusion and sleep apnea, and that's really what their whole focus on. So yes, they're dentists. Some might be surgeons, some might be orthodontics, some might just be general practice, you know.
So all these individuals have their own practices, but they're
Mhm.
almost say they're a member of this
Correct.
group. Okay. And you worked for the group, and then eventually when the person retired, you kind of took over.
Correct. Yep.
Wow. And you're still doing that.
I'm still doing
So
it,
that's
and
your day job.
that's kind of my day job. Yeah. And it's really it's a great job. We travel internationally because we're an international group. So actually in May I'll be going to Tokyo. And with this group I've been to Munich, uh, India, Moscow, um, Kyoto, and then now we'll be in Japan. And I think that's it. So it's kind of afforded some travel as
Oh my
well.
God,
So it's
that's
kind
an
of
amazing gift to get from a job,
yeah.
a job that allows you to do that stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, let's get into your origin story. Are you from the Seattle area?
I'm actually was born in Portland.
Oh, and I
Not a lot of
think
us locals.
no, not talking about your age. I think you're a little younger than me.
I don't think
But
so.
did you? Well, so I'm 53. I just turned 53 over the weekend at the event. But
Oh, right. Well,
what?
I'm about to be 54 on April 30th, so I got you beat.
Why the hell do I have so much worse crow's feet than you? You literally look like you're in your early 40s. That's so friggin' annoying. And you can curse on the podcast if you want to. That's
Um,
why I have my headphones on so nobody will hear it. But
well, I like to say a little bit of vino. or sparkling is what I have today.
Yes.
And probably just living in the Pacific Northwest.
But so born and raised in Portland?
No, so my parents moved to Washington when I was about 10. We moved to a really small town outside of Olympia,
What's it called? I
um,
probably know it.
Shelton. You
Yeah,
know, Shelton.
Shelton.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because if you go up the
Christmas Town,
I-5,
USA.
is that what it is?
Yeah,
Kind of.
it's a
Okay, but if
logging town.
yeah, but if you go up the I-5 and instead of going on I-5, you get to Olympia, you take the to go up the
101.
Olympic
Yep,
Peninsula.
yep, yep, yep.
Oh my gosh. But you have
Yeah.
memories of Portland, but your formative years, middle school, high school was in Shelton.
Yeah, I was born in Portland, but I was actually raised in Beaverton, actually in Orenco area, which
Yep.
was just all farmland.
Yep.
So, so yes, I would say definitely my formative years were growing up in Shelton. And I would say it was not easy being kind of an outsider moving into a small town where everyone's related and or born there. Because it was a logging town. But I got by. I mean, it was fine. It was the first year was a little difficult because I missed my friends and my family and
Yeah,
that.
that's a big transition, obviously,
Mhm.
especially at that age.
Yeah. I mean, it was still grade school, not like middle school. I know people who've had to move in middle school or even early high school, which I'm like, oh. But yeah, it was definitely I moved into a neighborhood where the friendships were all established already and and kind of like trying to fit in and yeah.
So the Beaverton area, were you Beaverton proper or were you closer to Aloha?
We were in Aloha at first and then when we moved to Orenco.
The only
So
reason I ask, my
yeah.
daughter's mom was born and raised in Aloha, went to Aloha High School, and
Oh,
she's the same age as me within a few
yeah.
months. So I mean, there's a chance you went to like elementary school with her, but
My aunt went to Aloha High School, and she just turned 68. But and I used to go there for daycare in the morning. Like she was in high school and dropped me off at the daycare there. But I went to Aloha Park in like first grade, and then we moved and I went to oh, it's right by the West Lynn. I think it's called West Lynn Grade School or something like that. And then I moved
what
then is that
West
right?
Lynn in the Aloha area?
In the more of the Hillsborough area.
Oh, I it's
Aloha Park was
Lynn,
in Aloha, and then
right? Okay,
that doesn't sound right. But
no, because
anyway,
West Lynn's a city in
yeah,
Oregon.
not Westland. Oh,
Sorry.
that's actually no, it's not Westland. I can't remember what it's called. It will
Yeah,
come to me.
the wine's already kicking
I know.
in. Brain
And
fog.
then well, I wasn't there for very long, and it was just because we had moved to Orenco,
Okay.
and then I actually went to St. Mary's of the Valley.
Yep. I
But
actually went to college with a girl from St. Mary's.
oh,
But so siblings? Do you have siblings?
no,
Okay. Only child.
only child.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
Just like you, right? Didn't you tell me you
no,
were?
no, I have two brothers.
Oh, okay.
I have one that I grew up with. He's 5.5 years older than me.
Oh, I just remembered the name of the grade school.
Oh, yeah.
West Union.
West Union. All right.
Union. Okay.
I will, and if my daughter's mom watches this, she's gonna know everything you're talking about. West Union.
Yeah.
But no, I have the one brother who's 5.5 years older that I was raised with. And then when
Okay.
I was an adult in my 20s, I found out that I have a half brother who lives in Tennessee because that's where my dad's from. But
Okay.
now, and we've met as adults. We're all very close. He's awesome. Um, but okay, so end up in Shelton for
Mhm.
middle school, high school, and
Correct.
then what was the plan? Well, after high school, what did you want to do, and maybe how did you end up working for that dental organization?
Yeah, so I because I have it still have a diary that I read. I know exactly what I thought I was going to do, and that was go into law. And so when I graduated from high school, I that was what I wanted to do. And the only two schools I wanted to go to were UW and UPS. And I didn't get into either. My SATs were crappy because at the time I was a smart kid. I mean, I was in AP classes and whatever, but I didn't like test taking. I didn't think that SATs mattered. I just thought it was, standardized testing,
Yeah.
blue. So then I went to community college in Tacoma, and then I transferred up to Western Washington, and that's where I got my
In
degree.
Bellingham.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's funny. You just met this past event. You met my friend Krista, who came with
Yeah.
me. So her daughter is going to graduate from Western in June or whatever. She
Oh,
just
nice.
finished. Yes, yep.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Now, when I was there, it wasn't as fancy, but it's kind of fancy now. But yeah.
I haven't been there. My mom had when I was a kid had a friend that lived up there. So I was in Bellingham when I was God middle school maybe. We're talking early 80s. That's the only time I've ever been there.
Oh, okay.
It was probably kind of what you remember. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. No,
Same.
if you were going to college there, it would have been in the early 90s. But
Yeah. But still, I don't think a lot had changed from the 80s to the 90s because I had friends that had gone up there in 80s. What year did they go up there? 86, 87.
okay.
And it was pretty similar.
But
Um,
eventually out of high school, so you community college outside of Tacoma, then to Western Washington. And are
mhm.
you kind of still having the law thing you want to do, the lawyer thing, or
No, I went into I was when I went to community college, I was just trying to get my credits to transfer.
yes.
And so, but I did go into uh not pre-law, but I did take some classes, and I I just didn't think I was smart enough, to be honest. I was like, oh, this is a little bit over my head. And so um, I went to when I went to Western, then I thought, well, I wanted to go into journalism. That was kind of where I landed. And then there was a newscaster who, and I every time I see her, she's still on the news. And I won't mention her name, but she came in to speak to our class, and she was really kind of negative, like how hard it was to get a job in journalism, and just I don't know. I felt like kind of defeated. She wasn't as aspirational as I thought, and so I thought, well, maybe this isn't the path I want to go down. And so then I just kind of kept taking some courses, and Western has a really good teaching program. So
Okay.
then I thought that I would get into teaching. And so I went all through, got my, went through my practicum, and then it was time to student teach. And that's when they put you in the classroom, like
Yeah.
during your practicum and all that. And I was like, no, this is not a job for me. But I was a senior, and so I didn't know what to do. And so I'll let you on a little secret. At the time, Western, I was just started flipping through. Remember, we're not online. I had a word processor that I typed on. At first it was a typewriter, and then I went up to a word processor.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and so I was just flipping through the book of courses that you take. You don't get on the internet and find this stuff. And I saw that I could do a student faculty designed major. So I was like, well, that's perfect. So I had to find an advisor. Then I had to come up with what the degree would be called, and then I had to put all my credits together and decide, and with my advisor's help, kind of figure out like why I should get a degree. And then I had to go before a board and present it, and that's what I did because I
Wow.
basically was trying to get out.
So your
Yeah.
advisor was looking at everything you had taken so
Mhm.
far and what is the best path toward graduating with what you've already done, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and what would that be called? And because there wasn't a name for it. And so funny, we decided we came up with interdisciplinary social science, which apparently now is a degree.
Oh, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah. And I think it's a thing of when I would go into interviews and they were like, I've never heard of this degree. This is, back in the day. And I said, well, liberal arts is probably the best, I guess, example I can come up with.
What you should have said is, yeah, it's because we're doing something very cutting edge. This is going to
Yeah.
be all the rage in about 10 years. You should get on the ground floor. That was your selling
Well, I
point in the
did have
interview.
one interviewer who was kind of, I wouldn't say snotty, but just sort of flippant. And I finally just said, you know what? I made it up. Bottom line is I made it up. So there you go. I knew I wasn't getting the job. So
But now it's really a thing though. That
I
is so
know
funny.
I've talked to people who have that degree, and I was like, I'm cutting edge.
Why aren't you getting some residuals for that?
I know, right? Yeah.
Okay, so out of college,
Mhm.
what's the your first putting your toe into the working world?
So I could not find a job. That was, during it was kind of when probably kids feel today, but where it was really hard to find a job. Lots of internships. That was kind of the big deal. Internships. And I didn't really have a computer and I didn't have I didn't really have I don't know. I wasn't Western doesn't have sororities or fraternities, so I didn't have those kind of connections. And so just, what did I do? I was working at a bike shop, a bike and ski shop
Okay.
in Bellingham. I worked at Fairhaven Bike and Ski is what it used to be called. So I thought the path that I wanted to take was I wanted to be a rep. I wanted to rep snowboards because snowboards had just come out.
Yeah.
I interviewed at Nick Wax, which is, a huge deal now. Like they did all the waterproofing. Anyway, all these companies that I wanted to rep for, but I was really young. I was, at that time, maybe 21, 22. I can't remember exactly. And so I didn't have a lot of experience. And so I also wanted to work for Cannondale because that was my mountain bike. I had all this and it just nothing was panning out. And so I moved home. And then I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do randomly, and I can go into this story, but I landed this commercial and I got a little bit of money for it. And so then I got a computer and I got an Apple computer. I was all excited. And then I just started researching event planning because I don't know, it just sort of sounded like something that would be fun because I had interned, I had got a connection through somebody that I worked with at we worked at a clothing store, and she said you should intern at Seafair in Seattle. So I interned at Seafair for about 6 months, and then I interned at Bumbershoot, mostly just volunteering. Um, and so that's where I was like, oh, this is the path I want to do. I want to do these event things, not exactly knowing what that looked like. So then, but I couldn't find a job. It was really, really hard. So I was living in Seattle and I just going through the paper trying to find lawn ads. And then the American Heart Association was hiring for a receptionist. So, or no, an admin assistant. I'm sorry, not receptionist, an admin assistant to their field staff. I didn't know what that entailed, but I needed a job. So I called and I got the job. And yeah, so I started as the admin to the field staff. And then about a year later, I became one of the field staff. And then a little bit like a year after that, I had a pretty good title. I forget what I was, a director. And then, yeah, so that's what I was doing was working for the American Heart Association, doing their fundraisers like the Heart Walk, Jump Rope for Heart, and things like that.
So is it kind of similar to what you're doing for the dental organization now, but you started with the American Heart Association?
Nope. Nope.
Not,
I'm gonna jump. So then I'm working at the American Heart Association. I liked it.
yeah.
It was a great job. But I had a friend who called me and she said, Tracy, I'm working at this really great company in Seattle. And we just talked about this actually, her and I, we just saw each other. And she said, I work at this really great job in Seattle, and all we do is go out to lunch with our clients and plan events. And I was like, well, that sounds amazing. Like, why wouldn't I want to do that? So I went over there. They had actually already had someone that they were going to hire, but they were kind of unsure. And so I went in and interviewed, and then I got the job. So from there is where I started doing event planning, and then I started working with the dental group and different groups. And so that's how that all kind of transpired.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the your commercial. Can I find it on YouTube?
No, isn't that
What's
funny?
the story on that?
The story on that is I was dating a guy who was into modeling and doing commercials and whatnot. And so we were going to Portland to spend the weekend. I hadn't even Okay, I'm like in the middle of things, but I hadn't really showered. Like I was just in, this is back when, you wear flowery skirts and hiking boots, right? And I don't know, maybe a t-shirt or whatever, the grunge days,
I
right?
was gonna say, if we're talking about the
Yeah.
90s, especially coming from
Yep.
Seattle, it's the grunge scene.
Yeah. So we're kind of grungy here, right? So he said, "Can I stop off and do I'm gonna try out for this commercial before on our way down to Portland from Bellingham." And I said, "Yeah, that's fine. I don't care." So he's in doing his thing, whatever you do, and I'm sitting out there.
Was the audition in the Seattle area?
Yeah,
That's where you had to stop.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, his agent was lived in Seattle. So so then so I'm sitting out there just kind of waiting, and the guy at the front desk had gone outside or gone in the room to do something. And this girl came in and I said, "Oh, grab your clipboard. There's a clipboard right there. You're supposed to fill that out and, then sit down and then they'll call you in." Well, the guy at the reception desk heard me and he was like, "Do you want to try out for this?" And I was like, "No, no, no. Oh no, I was just helping out. I was like, my boyfriend's in there, blah, 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 blah." And so he goes, "No, I really think you should try out for this." And I was like, okay. And so I get a clipboard and he's like, "Well, do you have a headshot?" And I was like, "No." So he takes a Polaroid. I kid you not. He takes a Polaroid and puts it on my sheet there. So I'm walking into the room and my boyfriend's walking out and I was like, "Oh, I'll see you in a second." So,
So I want to hear the end of the story, but
yeah.
do I know where this is going? Is that why the relationship ended? You got the part and he didn't? Sorry.
No. Well,
Kid.
that's kind of how it sort of, no, but that's not why it ended.
I know.
But he didn't get the part. Let's just put it that way.
But
Um,
so you have to say, hey, I guess they want me to try out, so I'll be
yeah,
back in a minute.
yeah, I'll be back out when in a second, and so I go in and they have a camera on you and they ask you questions and you just kind of and they said, "What do you like to do for fun?" And I said, really, I like mountain biking." And so I kind of, was talking, I just kind of talked about mountain biking and blah, blah, blah. So that was it. And so I left. And so then it was about, and then this is before cell phones. Feel like I'm dating myself, but so Todd or Todd, that's my husband, John's
I know.
agent. Yeah, it wasn't Todd. So he who should not be named, I think I just said it, but anyway, his agent called and said that Tracy got a call back for that commercial and how we don't know how to get a hold of her. And so John said, "Well, I know how to get a hold of her." And then the agent was like, "Well, we could just give it to someone else." And John was like, "No, no, no. How can you do that?" So John told me about it. And so the agent said, "Well, if we can't get a hold of her, then, then it's a done deal." And so I went and got a pager. Remember those things
Oh,
that
but I had one. Yes.
yeah. So I had to get a pager so that they could get a hold of me. And yeah, so I got a pager and then I went for a callback. And so so then that's a little more scripted. And so it was two of us. It was a girl, another girl. And they said, "Hey, can you pretend like you're in Pike Place Market and act out a scene?" And I was like, "Sure." And so you kind of just figured, I don't know, we're kind of making it up as we go along. And so I remember we're talking and I was like, "Hey, do you want to go get a humbao?" I've been to Pike Place Market a gazillion times. And she's like, "Okay." And then I was like, I literally, like, the camera's here and I like push her out of the way. And I was like, "Oh, watch out for that flying fish." And like, then I just stood there in the camera. I don't know where she was. She was
So
off to the
perfect.
side. Yeah. So I ended up getting the commercial and it was actually a Ford. Do you remember the teal, green, blue trucks, little
The
trucks that
Rangers, Ford
yeah,
Rangers.
the Rangers. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
the small
Ford.
trucks. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, my friend from high school, shout out to TJ. He actually literally owned one of those. I'm not
So did
making same
Todd.
color. Same color.
Yeah. So did my husband when I met him,
That
which
is
is
awesome.
hilarious.
They were
Yeah.
cool little trucks.
Yeah. And so that was it. We just shot a commercial, a mountain biking commercial in Eastern Washington.
Oh,
And
like
yeah.
they went past Ellensburg, like farther
Hmm.
east. Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That is super
Um,
cool. So you don't think
yeah,
I could find that? Somebody has to put that on YouTube. Have you searched for it?
I have, but
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
And was
it's
that
back
your?
again.
So I'm sorry.
It was like 94.
I am learning about the whole Zoom thing. I have to pause for the delay, but you got a nice chunk of change from that. But did you
Mhm.
have you had no interest in pursuing that?
Okay, I'll tell you. So here's what happened. So I got a little nice chunk of change from it because I learned that if they show your face, you get more money than if, yeah, it's all this weird stuff, and
Yep.
different levels. Plus, if it goes national, which means it's shown, not just in like Oregon or Washington, a national commercial gets you more money too, because then you get royalties or residuals or whatever
Did you
they
get a
call it.
SAG card for this then?
No. So that happened, and then the agent called me. And remember, I'm young. I'm probably at this point 23. So the agent called me and was like, "Well, you owe us money." And I was like, "For what?" And she was like, "Well, because you got the commercial and we're John's agent, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, okay, what does that look like?" And so they told me, and I was just like, I didn't want to, I didn't want to get them pissed off. I mean, I think he was still my boyfriend at the time. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, maybe not. But I just paid him. And so they said, well, we can send you to other gigs if you want. So I was like, okay. So the next one they sent me to was a swim-in commercial. Now, have you been to you remember those stores at the mall? They were called swim-in. They were just bathing suits. Uh-huh.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I had to put on a bathing suit and walk in front of the camera and say, I love shopping at Swimmin'. I was literally dripping with sweat. I was like, what? And so I didn't A, get the commercial, and B, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of done with this. So, I think it was just a fluke, the whole
Yeah, that
award
feels
thing. And so
I mean, we're talking 90s. God, that feels dirty. Even the
I
way
know.
that they were scripting
Yeah.
that commercial.
Yeah.
But now you said you were young, and I know enough. I actually have an actor friend that lives in LA, so I know enough about how that went down where that agent didn't deserve any money from you.
I know.
You happened to be in the lobby, but you were young. But no,
Yeah.
he deserved no commission. He did
Right.
nothing to make that happen.
I know. They were then gonna, promote me so supposedly and all this, but it was so I got some headshots, and but it
So
didn't really. My
after
career
the
was
after
over.
that, that was done, and you got back into the Heart Association first, and then I forgot you told me how you ended up with the dental group.
Yeah, because the company that I worked for, actually, we were doing their meeting planning for the dental group for the
Okay.
executive director at the time. Yep. And so I just continued to do that for many,
You
many years.
literally just fell into that career, which
Hmm.
by happy accident, sometimes that is the way people find that like, well, it wasn't an accident. It was Pam telling me, dude, you need to get a real job. So I ended up at Costco, which I'm eternally grateful for. I love my job, but yeah, because I've heard you talk about this at the Get Lit event over several years. You've always journaled. Um, is that is that I don't know, is that some reason that and we'll get to how you ended up in Cannon Beach and all that stuff, but did you have ever have any aspirations of actually being a writer or
I
you just
did.
okay,
When
okay,
I was
let's talk
young,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, I was an avid reader. I mean as an only child, I read and I read and I read and I read. And long car trips, between Washington and Oregon. And luckily I didn't get car sick,
I
so
was
I would
gonna
just
say I
keep
can't do
reading.
that.
Hmm. Yeah, and so then I thought, well, maybe I want to write. And at the time, I really liked to read mysteries like Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple and Encyclopedia Brown when I was younger. But, just I just liked this. So that's what I thought I wanted, Murder on the Orient Express, it was kind of like my thing. And so I started writing little stories like that. But then I just kind of stopped. And I really stopped journaling in a way too. I did it, I mean, I did it for a while, but a lot of it I felt like it was when I was really angsty, when I was like, oh, life sucks,
Yeah.
And yeah, so so that's really I never really pursued. And now I don't I I think as you've heard at Get Lit, writers, I mean, you have to really keep your craft. You have to write all the time. And
Yeah.
I just kind of stopped doing that. And so I think it really, I just kind of fell out of that. I still like to read, but writing just, I don't, I write things in my head all the time, like letters to people or to companies, or you know what I mean? Like, man, if my head could spit out what I'm thinking and
You know, they have, I think they have a chip for that. It's probably coming. This is
yeah, yeah. So
so, but you
anyway,
going working for this dental organization, event planning, that was based out of Seattle, right? You were still living
correct.
up there.
I was, yeah.
So
And then I
how,
moved,
yeah, I was gonna
yeah,
say, yeah, what's the natural progression to where you ended up
yeah.
in Cannon Beach, I guess.
So I moved to Olympia, and I was commuting up to Seattle. Just wanted to be a little bit closer, to some friends and family down there. And yeah, and then I came to Seaside. I had a really good friend who was living in Seaside, her and her husband now, introduced me to my now husband, Todd.
Todd, yeah. Shout
Yeah,
out to Todd. I love that
yeah.
guy.
Yeah. And so we were long distance for a while, and I was wanting to move up to Issaquah. And then I moved back to Seattle. And so then we were even farther distance away. And so that commute was getting to be really long. And so we just made the decision that, I decided I'd come down and just try beach living for a while. I could do my job from anywhere and do the dental and the optometry organization
Because
from
even
home.
back then, it was a remote job, more or less.
Hmm.
You didn't have to
Hmm.
go to an office.
Mm-mm. No,
Okay.
not after I left convention services. So yeah.
And that
Um,
trip down to, I forgot that you went to Seaside, I guess, to meet friends. Was that the first time you'd been to that area of the Oregon coast as an
no,
adult? So you
no.
you you knew the area.
I knew the area, and I loved coming down to Seaside when I was younger, to visit these friends actually, because this is now I'm third. Todd and I got married when I was 35, so now I'm in my 30s. So when I was in my 20s, I would come down here, and we'd always go to like the wine festival, the wine seafood festival.
Astoria.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Party at the Shiloh, all the
Yep.
fun things you do
Yep.
down at the beach. And yeah.
What happens at the beach stays at the beach.
Yeah, so I really wanted to move to Seaside, and my friends were like, "Why Seaside?" And I was like, "I like it here." But Todd had bought property in Cannon Beach, so that's what brought us down here.
Is Todd from the Oregon coast?
No, he's from Colorado.
Oh
So,
wow. So
yep.
what age did he move out here?
He moved out here when he was probably 27,
Okay.
26. He was a ski bum. That's what he says. Up
Oh my gosh,
at the
that makes
mountain.
so much sense. I can see
Yep.
that in him.
Yep. So now he wants to be or then he wanted to learn how to surf. He was tired of doing this. He had moved to Bend, came out to surf, and just never left. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So you met him that trip to Seaside to meet your friends.
Mhm.
That's when you met Todd.
Yes.
Okay. And then it was a long distance relationship, but at some point you were like, well, let's just do this. I can work remotely. So what year
Mhm.
did you actually, and did you land in Cannon Beach when you first moved?
No, we were in Seaside,
Okay.
which I loved. I loved where we lived. We lived at the Cove. So I was here in, let's see, I moved in 2005, I believe, 4 or 5. And then, sorry, I thought someone was knocking on the door. 4 or 5, and then we got married in 2006. And then we got married in August 2006, and we moved into our house in Cannon Beach that Todd built in December of 2006.
And
So
isn't he, I did pick up on this because I was, your niece who it's so funny. We see each other every April. Like we're the once a year friends.
yeah,
But she mentioned that, Todd's building you a new house
yeah,
right
yep,
down from the surf sand. If you kind of go south, it's right there, I think.
yep,
That's
yeah, it's
awesome.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah, he's very
But
handy.
yeah, that comes in handy with a husband.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
So 2006, Cannon Beach, still doing the working for the dental organization. Um, at what were the first? Because I think the first Get Lit event was 2013. Is that right?
I thought it was 13, but I think it was 12.
Okay,
I happened to go in 2013 to the event.
just as a guest.
Yes.
then it
Yes.
was 2012 because the first year I went, and this is how I reached out to you. The first year yeah, the first year I went, you were in charge, I
So then that would have
believe.
been 2014.
Okay, then that would have been 2014, the
Yeah.
first year I went. But so it happened for 2 years before I went.
Yeah.
But you'd been in Cannon Beach since 2006, working, and by this point you had kind of taken over the dental organization group. Your friend had retired, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's your full-time job.
Yes.
At what point did you decide to start this side business in the area, I guess? Tollivana Arts Colony and all that, and
So well, I did, yeah, I kind of have the side business, but what actually happened was I went to the event and I loved it. And it was put on through Tollivana Arts Colony, and they had a director at the time. And then um I don't know, she wasn't going to do it, or I don't know exactly. They were looking for a coordinator. And so Jeff Womack, who was on the committee at the time, approached me. He knew me and he said, would you want to do this event? Would you want to help us with this event? And because I loved it so much, I was like, yeah, that would be great. I would love to
so
do that.
face to a name. I should know who Jeff is, but I
Yeah, so Jeff has recently passed, so you haven't seen him
oh
for,
shit. Okay.
yeah, he's about 2 years, three. It's actually probably been through. This is probably 3 years ago,
I'm sure I
and
met him
he
at
was
some
a
of the earlier
sponsor.
ones.
Yeah, so you probably recognize because we've mentioned him before. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But so the first 2 years that happened, did you say you went to the first 2 years of it as a guest or just
No, I went to the second
the
year.
second one,
The
2014?
first the first year was really small, and I don't think it was even at the surf stand. I think it was just at the bookstore.
Oh, okay. What
Yeah.
was the origin of it?
Well, the origin was Val Ryan, who used to own the Cannon Beach Book Company, she used to do a midwinter mystery event. And I think she always wanted to do a literary event in Cannon Beach. And she, about around that time, that's when the city was getting tourism funding dollars from the hotel. And so they needed to spend it, but they wanted to have an art component to it. And so I think her and the mayor at the time, Mike Morgan, and they knew Terry from, Terry
Because
selling.
he lived there.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. And so they sort of collectively got together and just kind of started really small. And then yeah, and then now I could have my years off. I mean, it could have been 2012 that it started. Maybe the first year is the year I didn't go. Doesn't sound right though.
No,
Anyway,
I think you have it right because the first
yeah.
year I went, it was again my birthday weekend, and we were still in the rental. We hadn't bought the house, or Pam hadn't bought the house yet. So I think 2014 was the first year I went, but the but that was the third year, I think.
Yeah,
But it
that
was the
sounds
first year you were running it because I
yeah.
remember the reason I picked you out. So this is so funny. I found a Facebook friend that had a yurt for rent for the weekend, um, just between Cannon Beach and Seaside, right before you get to Seaside. So I was like, I want to do this birthday. And I was like, it's Terry Brooks, my favorite author. So I went there, went to the reception Friday night, had a great time. And I don't know, just I was stupid back then. I ended up sleeping in. I've never told you this. I ended up sleeping in and just crashing at in the yurt, watching. They had cable, watching movies on Netflix or HBO. Missed the entire daytime performance. All the authors. I showed
Okay.
up for the dinner, the keynote speaker dinner
You
on
remember
that.
who it was?
It was the one where the mic went out and he you had to give him a lapel mic that he was
Yeah.
just holding. I don't remember the author, but he
I'm
was
pretty sure
literally
that was
holding.
Brian Doyle.
That sounds right. He was
Yeah.
holding the belt pack in his hand and the lapel mic in the other hand, and he finished his speech. And I thought it was amazing. But and then I did go to the Coaster Theater the next day on Sunday morning. And I was sitting there just looking around. I'm very observational, obviously. And something about you, I was like, okay, she's important to this. Like she's a contact person. And I don't know how I knew that. I didn't know what your
Yeah,
role
because
was.
I wasn't introducing anyone yet or
No, you
anything.
weren't. No,
No.
Terry was doing everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I could just tell you had that air about you. Not cocky, but I was like, she's has some involvement in this event. And I stalked you on Facebook and I found you. And I sent you a message like, oh my gosh, the event's amazing. I had such a good time. No, and I was trying to be diplomatic. I was like, I noticed you had some audio issues.
I did me.
I actually, am a DJ, have sound equipment. I could be happy to help you out next year. And you were just like, yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah, it
So
was great.
so that's how we got connected.
Yeah.
But so the third, so yeah, it was the third year you took over and you've been doing it ever since.
Hmm.
Um,
And we are doing it next year.
Well, of course we are.
Okay.
Yes. Was there ever a question about that? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, there was a little bit of
And
question.
you know what? Never mind. We don't have to share that stuff.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
for
just people have, the Brooks have moved and we just weren't sure if we
oh
were gonna,
well,
yeah.
that's funny you bring that up because maybe it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. Where Terry thought they were going to move, and I
Mhm.
remember he kind of announced it, and then they put a petition together to make him stay here. But obviously, he needs to move, be closer to family.
Yeah.
But maybe it's years past. I always thought Terry had envisioned this, or whoever started it, and he was obviously influential in that. But this was meant to go on even when he's gone. I
Yeah.
thought, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we can get the funding and still get the authors, then
And I don't want to. Okay, so I don't want to peek too much behind the curtain here. Um, I think you cap it at 100 people. Isn't that kind of the
we could
capacity?
go up to about 120, I believe.
Okay,
But usually are capping it just because we have to have numbers turned in so we know how many people to feed and all of that.
right. So if you get that many people, does it pay for itself or is it always a loss?
No, because we want to keep it affordable and the way that if we were to yeah, we would have to charge a lot of money.
So it's always a loss. So
Yeah,
you do need to solicit or find some grants,
correct.
other funding. Okay, every single year you have to.
Yes. And I have to shout out to the Cannon Beach City and Tourism Fund. They also has another name, the Cannon Beach Tourism, and I can't remember. But anyway, I mean, without that grant, we wouldn't be able to do this. I mean, we've received the grant almost since they started, but they've increased the amount that we get every year, which has helped us be able to pay the authors and increase the quality and the event. So I
And
mean,
that's a local organization that you're getting that grant from.
well, it's the city of Cannon Beach who
Right.
collects tourism dollars from the hotel. So really it's paid for by the hotels in a way.
Jesus. Okay. Yep. And just I can kind of imagine how expensive everything is. You obviously have to put the authors up in a room. Obviously, you're nice enough to give me a room every year. But then there's also just renting that space out. I can't imagine how much that costs, the food, the dinner. Um, yeah, I think it's an amazing event.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would hope to God. So I'll put this on record since we're recording. I will keep doing it as long as you guys do. I think it's amazing. So I hope, and I'm assuming that Terry wants it to continue even when he can't do it.
Hmm.
Oh, and yeah, you should pat yourself on the back a little bit. You kind of took over the MC duties this year, and you did an amazing job. Would you
Oh,
stop?
thanks.
You're just like me. You can't take compliments. I've been in
Well,
therapy for 9 years and I still can't take compliments.
so the funny thing is that I was asked to officiate my girlfriend's daughter's wedding in July. And people think that I am not nervous when I'm talking, but I really am. I mean, it's, as you know, I mean, it's inside, you're like, oh. So anyway, there's going to be about 200 people at this wedding. And I was thinking to myself, I better start practicing some nervous, damage control so I don't just freeze. And so I literally did an open mic. When was that? In February.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was it in Cannon Beach?
Hmm.
Because I think I've seen it posted. Yes, they do
Yeah.
the open mic comedy events there.
Yes, I didn't do that. So that's the big deal. So what they had, that's Friday, Saturday, the comedy fest, but what they did was an open mic on the Thursday night at the Hemlocker.
Yep.
And I wasn't gonna do it, but I did. Speaking of journals, that was kind of what my open mic was pulling out journals or diaries that are like this big. And reading from them because I
That's
saw it on
amazing.
a
And
comedy
these were
show.
journals from when you were a lot younger, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could have seen that.
It was, well, yeah, I'm glad it wasn't recorded. Let's just put it that way. Somebody asked me
No,
if I would do it again. I was like, no, the shtick is gone, man. I'd already read. So,
that is so amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, I can kind
I'm
of relate to
practicing,
you.
I guess is what
I'm,
I'm saying.
and that is the best. So what's the because it's funny you mentioned open mics because I've been diving into the guitar thing since the pandemic happened. I mean, my roommate freshman year of college was a guitar virtuoso, still is. But so 9 months freshman year of college, he taught me guitar, and then I kind of dropped it for over 20 years, almost 30. Um, until for a random birthday, my mom bought me a guitar, kept it in the closet until the pandemic started. And then I was like, well, I got a lot of free time on my hands. There's YouTube. Any song I want to learn, I can just look it up on YouTube because I knew the basic four chords. So I started practice, and I've gotten to the point, we're in 2025 now, where I'm starting to do open mics.
Oh,
I know
nice.
there's some local artists here that are in bands, but they run open mics on the off nights. So I have gone up and embarrassed the hell out of myself, but I can sing and play. You'll recognize the song, but I suck. But what I was going to say was, um, in reference to comedians, especially, you don't learn until you bomb. You have to bomb. That is how you get better. So
Right.
don't be afraid to get up there and embarrass yourself
Yeah.
because we get in our head about it. 99% of the people in the audience don't even know how to play guitar or wouldn't have something to read from as a journal or they wouldn't have any material. The fact that you're up there is you're already not a step ahead. It's the wrong term for it, but you're already doing something bold.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
And I also think it could actually, again, get up there and bomb, and then when you do the wedding, you'll be fine.
Yeah. I don't want the wedding to be the thing I bomb at
That
though.
is why you need to bomb before. That's what I'm saying.
I
Then the
know.
wedding will be perfect. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh, that
I
is
know.
so
I don't feel like
amazing.
I've got to cuss enough on this, and she even said we could.
Drop them all in right now because I have headphones on, so my neighbors can't hear it. So say it. Give me an F-bomb.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Um, the this is funny because I think your niece, and I forget her name, I only see her once a year, but she was
Alexi. Yeah.
Alexi. She was telling me where the new house is. This is a real thing. Remember, it would have been over a year ago, I think in October, when me and Pam and a couple of friends came over um, to do a weekend at the coast. I asked you about
Oh, yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
house, and we did mushrooms. So it was so funny because the house that we rented was it must be if you come, where Pelican Brewery is, and then you
Uh-huh.
keep going south, and then
Yeah.
it goes up a bit of a hill. Right when you get to the
Yeah.
top of that hill, that's the house we rented. And then you can walk down from there to the beach. But for some reason in October, the elk were everywhere.
They're still here.
Is that a thing that happens every year? I had
Oh,
never
yeah.
seen them before.
Yeah. They think they hide. They know that they can't get shot if they're in Cannon Beach. So they hang out all year. In fact, they were here today.
I guess I was gonna say I mean I'm not a hunter, but I have friends and family that are. Is that an area in the Coast Range where people put in for tags and actually go hunting?
Not here,
No,
but
no,
if
but I
they
mean
are
up
to
in the
thaw out, yeah,
mountains.
yeah. There's certain
Oh,
areas that they cannot go,
yep.
but yes, there's definitely, yeah,
So that
that's why
you're
we're
right.
getting
That
hang
that
out
would have
here.
been that would have been hunting season, but the elk
Hmm.
are smart enough to know
Yeah,
that and it was so funny because they were stopping traffic because they
yeah,
were coming across the road.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You were probably rented really close to where we're building.
No, I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
It was
because we're on the drop down, like probably where
bef
you were.
before you go up the hill.
No, so when you start, you pass Pelican and you kind of go up,
Yep. Oh, but there's a road that goes down.
then well, it's the S curve, so they go down. So yeah.
But you're kind of closer to the water the beach side or
No, we're just on Hemlock, so it's just
okay.
once you drop down into Tolavana, which is what
Yeah.
that area is called. Yeah. Like if you're going towards Moe's, I guess that's
Yes.
people know where
Yes.
Moe's is. So yeah.
Oh, okay. I know. I have driven all the way down there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely know that area.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, how close to completion is it?
Um
That depends on Todd. So I'm
yeah,
kidding. I'm
exactly.
kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, we are a little behind because we're still, he's still working and doing other things, but we did just get our cabinets ordered today. So woohoo.
Nice.
It's
That's
a big deal.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I take it Steven's not there. He just lets you take over the shack and
Yeah.
you
Shout
probably
out
have a key.
Steven. I told him I'd give him a shout out.
Yes, we should. You definitely should. Oh my gosh.
And we
Steven.
might have to have you play open mic.
Yeah, I'll come over and do it. Is that a
Yeah.
regular occurring thing?
No, but it might be. But I said open mic, but what I meant was maybe we need someone at the wine shack on Friday.
Oh, right, right, for the event. Sure, I'd be happy to butcher some Hootie and the Blowfish. I could butcher some Foo Fighters. I could butcher some Kenny Chesney.
Maybe we just do an open mic and you know how when you go to karaoke and
Yeah.
the person who runs the karaoke sings a lot of karaoke. So you could be the MC. So you can
Yes.
open mic it and then we can invite other people in, which you
Uh,
could set up if you couldn't, or you could do it if no one wants to get up there.
Right. Actually, I do have a little portable system I could set up, and I would probably just gear it more towards open mic. Another career I had for 15 years, and actually 8 years full time, is I was a DJ for like 8 years. That was my income, self-employed. Did a lot of karaoke gigs, some other stuff. So I have all that equipment. But after,
But wouldn't that be cool though? I just started thinking about this. Wouldn't that be, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but my brain was like,
no,
"Bleh." A lot of these people that come to this are writers. They would probably love to stand up and read something that they've written.
that would be so easy.
Yeah,
I have a little speaker. If you want to do it at the wine shack, I could
yeah,
literally set the speaker. It's kind of like a monitor, a stage monitor, so it's angled the right way. I could put up one little speaker, give them a mic and a mic stand, and everybody could just talk. Yeah,
yeah.
that would be so easy to do. So
Hmm,
put that in your brain for next
yeah.
year if you want.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
And then if I have enough puff and wine, maybe I'll play a song or two. So
There you go. There you go.
I am gonna let you go. You have been entirely too kind with your time.
Oh, it's been fun.
But seriously, I am super excited we talked
Yeah.
about we did the podcast because you are one of the most amazing people I've ever met, and I look forward
Aw.
to that event. Seriously, I look forward to that event every year. It's like I kind of like my work at Costco, they know I put in for the vacation request as soon as I can. And I'm like, well, if you don't approve it, I'm just calling in sick. Like, duh, I'm doing this.
Okay, so April 17th through the 19th. Get it on your calendar.
What's that?
That's
Oh,
the,
that's next year.
yeah.
Oh, you already picked the dates. All right.
Hmm.
I will put it on
Yeah.
the calendar.
Easter's early, and so we normally are like right around that second week, depending, but we decided to
Yeah,
push it out a little bit. It gives people maybe a little bit more time after Easter. And
absolutely. I mean, it was not going to be an issue. I'll be there no matter what. But yes, I will put it on my Google Planner and I will put in my time off request at Costco.
there you go. I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh,
wow,
Tracy, you are a sweetheart. I seriously
thank
appreciate
you.
this. I'm gonna stop the recording and we can
Okay.
say our private goodbyes and you can curse all you
Okay.
want. So I'm stopping.